His daughter is engaged to a colleague. Yes. I was the first time I talked to him, he said, and I said, yes. He said, how long am I watching? Okay. Great. And I'll let Mary read. Spell it because she's a bit traffic. Great. But is he like in your He said he's on. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah, we enjoy what you do. Well, where are you? All of a sudden, there's all this stuff.
Yeah, I should have now. Or I got it.
Thank you, Rob.
Well, that's
How are you?
okay. How are you?
The stuff that was not in there. Things that he didn't say and the stuff that was not in
What do you want me to go here?
Any place that works for you is fine.
Okay, all right. Okay, fine.
And yeah, ladies, should we sit down? Well, good morning, everybody. Let me welcome you to the National Press Club, the world's leading organization for journalists. My name is Herb Perrone, and I'm chair of the club's Newsmakers Committee. This morning, we've invited Senator Tom Harkin, who is chairman of the Senate's Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, to discuss his bold new legislation to tackle America's growing retirement crisis and to rebuild the private pension system. He'll be introducing that legislation later today. There's no question that the nation is facing a retirement savings crisis of unprecedented proportions among private sector workers. The retirement savings deficit is, by any and every estimate, in the trillions of dollars. More than half of private sector workers have no access to any kind of an employer-sponsored retirement savings plan, in part because of the investment risks and the substantial administrative burdens of setting up and running a program pose real obstacles for private sector employers, especially small businesses. Senator Harkin's legislation will address those challenges and much more. Joining the senator this morning are Mary Kay Henry, president of the Service Employees International Union, and Denise Bauer, who was a vice president at the Texas-based American Income Life and National Income Life insurance companies. Excuse me. I want to make this quick because we have a hard out because the senator has to get back to the Hill for a vote. We're going to end exactly at 10:55. So a couple of ground rules before we get started. First, if you have a cell phone, mute it. Second, after our speakers have made their presentations, we'll open the floor to questions. Credentialed media and club members will have priority. We will allow other questions if time allows. So when you're recognized to ask a question, please state your name and your affiliation, and if you can, keep your question brief. Also, there's a live audio of this event is up on the web, so watch your language. And Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
All right. Herb, thank you very, very much, and thanks for having us down here to the National Press Club for this rollout, this announcement this morning. So good morning, everyone. It's great to be with you to talk about a subject that I think has not been talked about very much, but which I consider to be one of the darkest clouds hanging over the future economy of America. I first of all want to just say at the outset, I am really pleased that the President in the State of the Union brought up this issue of retirement security. And now, hopefully, this will get it on a higher level where the rest of the country will now start talking about it and focusing on it. As Herb said, I'm privileged to be joined by Mary Kay Henry, president of the SEIU, and also Denise Boyer with American Income Life Insurance. From countless conversations I've had with Americans, and we've been working on this now going on about 3 years in terms of hearings in our committee, consulting with outside groups. We've actively been working on this bill for about 1.5 years right now in terms of putting it together. The dream of a secure retirement is growing fainter and fainter in our country. Whether it's a young family struggling to pay off their student loan debt, maybe save for their own kids' education, or trying to put something aside for retirement, or maybe it's a 65-year-old nurse finally eligible to stop working, maybe a member of the millennial generation. It cuts across. Most Americans are deeply worried that they're just not going to have enough money to live on when they retire, and they're right to be worried. Again, I just repeat for emphasis' sake, this is probably one of the most underreported crises confronting Americans. I say crisis because from our hearings and investigations, the retirement income deficit, that means the difference between what people need in order to retire and live and what they actually have set aside for that, is about $6 trillion. $6 trillion, and growing worse. The sad truth is they just aren't prepared for retirement financially. And so, again, what happens when someone's older and they run out of money? Well, they become a burden to their families. I've talked to a lot of young people about this who seem to yawn when you talk about retirement. And I said, well, look at it this way. Do you want your folks to move in with you? You kind of you start to get their attention that way. But if they're lucky enough to have families, if they're lucky enough, they may become a burden. Or, guess what? They shift over and use more and more government programs, whether it's food stamps or other kinds of programs, or they tend to rely solely on Social Security, which is simply not enough. And I'll have more to say about that in a second. So again, what has always been a part of middle-class America, this idea that you could work when you reach a certain age, your retirement, that you could maybe not have the same kind of income you had before, but you wouldn't have to fall all the way down. You would have enough replacement that you could have a decent retirement. Today, however, less than half of Americans have less than $10,000 in savings. Only 14% are confident that they'll have enough for retirement. Well, the reason is only half of the American workforce today has access to a retirement plan. When I started in Congress in 1975, 1 out of every 2 American workers had a pension, something that would last them until the day they died. Now it's just 1 out of 5 and getting worse. It's fallen by over 30%, and it's going to get worse unless we take action. The vast majority of employees with any retirement plan at all today have a 401k. Now, again, that can be a good way to help people put a little money aside to supplement it, but 401ks were never intended to replace pensions. And to those who were led to believe that a 401k is a retirement program, a 401k is a savings program. It's fine, I'm all for it, but don't confuse it with a retirement program. Savings rates are too low. But the problem is there's no way for people to convert their savings into a substantial stream of retirement income that they can't outlive. When you dig into the data, when you look at who is really saving more, when you think who's really saving more, you discover it's another example of the growing inequality in this country. Most of the money is being saved by higher income Americans, people like me. I as a little aside, I always say that one of the problems that I've learned in my 40 years in Congress is that we tend to make laws as though everyone lives like we do, that everyone has the same kind of income that we do. I make, $180,000 a year or something like that. That puts us in the top 3% of income earners in America. We like our 401k? Sure, we can afford to do it. But that's the problem. More and more of these are just for upper income. Low-wage workers are struggling to secure even full-time hours at work, let alone have some money to put aside. I also want to make another point. There's a shocking level of racial and gender inequality in the current system. The National Institute on Retirement Security recently found that Black, Asian, and Latino workers have significantly less access to a retirement plan on the job than white Americans, especially in the private sector. As a result, the vast majority of working-age households headed by people of color have little or no retirement savings. For those with a retirement plan, the average account balances for Black and Latino households are less than 1/5 of white households. We all know about the income gap between men and women. I think the President mentioned that also in his State of the Union message. But what a lot of people don't realize is that the gap is especially pronounced after retirement. Listen to this. In 2011, the median annual income of older women was $14,225 a year. The median annual income of that same group of older men was $24,794 a year. Huge gap. So part of the problem, of course, is that women have less access to quality retirement plans than men because they're concentrated in jobs that traditionally don't offer retirement. So again, we must do better, and that's what we've been working on. That's what I roll out this morning. First, I want to again commend the President for acknowledging last night's or Tuesday's State of the Union. He's doing what he can with the MIRA program. It's a good first step, but Congress needs to act. And that's why I'm pleased today to announce the introduction of the USA Retirement Funds Act, a bill that will have tremendous benefits for working people, businesses, and our economy. My legislation tackles the retirement crisis head-on by ensuring that the 75 million people without a workplace retirement plan will have the opportunity to earn a safe and secure pension benefit. And the concept is very simple. Employers who don't offer a pension or a well-designed 401k would automatically enroll their employees in a USA retirement fund. Now, again, if a worker wants to opt out, he or she can. No one would be forced to participate, but by making the system an opt-out rather than an opt-in, we know that we can get millions more participating. And over time, as people contribute, they'll earn a real retirement benefit that will provide a better bang for their buck than what they could get if they're just on their own investing the money. And that's because these funds would spread retirement risk over large groups of participants, big pools. A recent report by David Madlin at the Center for American Progress found that the benefit for a plan like the USA Retirement Fund would be as much as 50% cheaper than existing defined contribution plans. Why? Again, big pools, professionally managed. In my experience, again, most small business owners want to do the right thing in terms of helping their employees out. They want to make sure that their employees, many of whom are their friends, and they go to the same churches and the same clubs and small communities, but they just can't. They can't afford it. It's tough to run a retirement plan. You can't expect a small business to be a fiduciary for a DB plan. It's tough to run a good 401k. So USA retirement funds would make it easy for even the smallest employer to offer this benefit. All an employer has to do, enroll their employees, and when they send their FICA wages in, that simple keystroke, just another little keystroke, they send this money to the USA Retirement Fund. And the employer would have no fiduciary responsibility. They would not have to manage the plan. They would not have to make any decisions. That would be taken care of by a board of independent qualified trustees. Now again, employers could, if they want, make voluntary contributions. I think that's important because I think a lot of employers would want to contribute to their employees' retirement. And as we have found, pensions are a good recruitment and workforce management tool. So employer says, you come to work for me, I'll enroll you in this USA retirement fund, you put in 6%, and because I want a good workforce, I'll kick in some too. So they can do that. So this would be a way for employers also to take part. Bringing more people in the retirement system will be a lot of new savings. That money would be invested right back in the economy, creating growth and new jobs. Because the funds are long-term investors, they would be able to provide much-needed patient capital for entrepreneurs and innovators and for the infrastructure of this country. I want to emphasize two more key points. USA retirement funds would not replace pensions or 401ks. Employers could and should continue to offer retirement plans at the workplace. But what USA funds would do is give people without access to a quality employer-provided plan the opportunity to earn a retirement benefit. Secondly, USA retirement funds aren't a new government program. I want to make that clear. It's not a government program. It's a new type of 21st century retirement plan run entirely by the private sector, just like pensions, DB plans are today, or your DC plans, your 401ks. Finally, as I said earlier, I would be remiss if I didn't remind everyone that we can't truly address the retirement crisis just by reforming the private retirement system. We have to improve and make secure the most efficient, most effective retirement program we've ever had, and that's called Social Security. And that's why I introduced the Strengthening Social Security Act last year. Again, it would expand Social Security benefits by about $65 a month. It would ensure that benefits keep pace with inflation by making cost of living adjustments better reflect the cost to seniors, the CPI seniors, rather than change CPI, but I'm not going to get into that, okay? It would provide that by just removing and lifting the cap on the payroll tax over a period of years, several years, raise that up. And that would extend the life of the trust fund and make Social Security stronger for future beneficiaries. So again, I always want to remind people, keep three things, think this in mind. for a secure retirement, you need three things. We always called it the three-legged stool. You need savings, you need pension, and you need Social Security. Now, Social Security is there to provide that base below which no one's going to go. But it's not enough, and we just can't make it more into a retirement system. Savings, 401ks, MIRAs, IRAs, fine. I'm all for savings. But you need a retirement. You need that retirement system in there. And that's the leg of the stool that we're focusing on here. So I anticipate questions about the President's program. I'm all for that. That's fine. It's a good first step, but it doesn't provide that retirement leg on that stool, and that's what we're talking about here. So what we've got to do is educate people, raise consciousness about the scale, about the need for that other leg. MIRAs, fine, IRAs, 401ks, but people need something that they know is going to be there for them when they retire, and they won't outlive it. So again, that's what we're proposing. I can fill in some of the details and stuff later on, but now I want to turn to Mary Kay Henry, a good friend and the president of the Service Employees International Union. Mary Kay.
Thank you, Senator. And thank you, Herb, for hosting us. And I'm proud to sit with Denise here because we are incredibly grateful for your leadership, Senator, and the year and a half it took to get to today to roll this bill out. But what's so wonderful about you is you understand that retirement earnings are linked to jobs that pay enough to allow people to save money. And you have been on the front lines of a fight to raise the minimum wage and make it possible for the recreation of the next American middle class so that workers can join together and negotiate with employers to bargain their wages up. So it's such an honor to be with you here today. SEIU firmly believes that we need to recreate an economy where when you work hard and play by the rules, you can earn a decent living and retire with dignity. And that's why we're so proud to stand with Senator Harkin as he introduces this bill that we think fill a critical need for half of the working population who have no access to a retirement plan at work. I'm sure that every person in this room has somebody in their family or community who has turned to you at some point in the last few years and said, I'm going to be working till I drop because I have no ability to imagine a life where I can retire and reap the fruits of my labor, which the previous generation was able to do. Younger workers, as we know, are less likely to have access to the three-legged stool that the senator just spoke about. The traditional defined benefit pension is evaporating. Personal savings are not possible given the growth of low-wage work. And Social Security that provided retirement security, as the senator said, is not enough to get by on. And this is the case with Karen Concher, a retired Virginia state worker, and her daughter, Sandra. They represent the generational shift that the senator spoke of. Karen and her husband are comfortable in their recent retirement due to the good union jobs that provided modest traditional defined benefit pensions. Now, Karen's main concern is that her only daughter will not be able to enjoy the same. At age 27, Sandra Conchar is already lowering her expectations for how she will live into the future. Her job as a community relations manager for a local restaurant chain only provides her enough to pay the rent. Living paycheck to paycheck, Sandra's unable to pay her student loans, let alone save anything for the future. Ensuring that every American has access to a retirement plan through automatic payroll deduction at work will go a long way at a time when the median retirement account balance for all American workers is just $3,000. This bill takes a strong step toward creating a universal system together with strengthening Social Security by improving benefits for the most vulnerable beneficiaries that will help solve the retirement income crisis. For Annie Thomas, this would be an answer to her prayers. Before she goes to sleep every night, Annie Thomas, a 65-year-old child care provider from Long Beach, California, prays for a change in America. She prays for her grandchildren who will be able to find employment worthy of their education. Like many American workers who are aging, Annie also prays for the opportunity to retire herself with dignity. Without access to an employer-sponsored retirement plan to supplement Social Security, Annie is reluctant to retire. Retiring may cause her monthly income to drop below $1,200 a month, the amount low-income workers receive in monthly retirement benefits from Social Security. For Annie, the USA Retirement Fund Act would be an answered prayer for more Americans to have the ability to retire with dignity. For workers like Karen, Sandy, and Annie, and millions like them, we fully support Senator Harkin in taking on the challenge of providing for workers' retirement security, just as he's been a champion for so many issues crucial to a worker's well-being during his distinguished career in the U.S. Senate. And we will use the full force of our union's energy to help provide a lot of conversation and organizing to help get this bill moving in the U.S. Senate. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise Boyer with American Income Life Insurance. Denise,
Thank you.
who I just learned went to Briarcliff College in Iowa.
Sioux City, Iowa. That's right. Thank you. And I was upstairs. I know we're talking about retirement and the importance of having a secure one. And I'm upstairs begging Senator Harkin not to retire this year. So because of his lifetime work, thank you for economic justice for all workers and creating economic security for people who are working. Mary Kay, thank you for putting the personal face on the employee who this will affect and her for hosting us. I'm happy to be here today on behalf of American Income Life and National Income Life Insurance companies and the 200,000 small business owners who are represented by members of the American Sustainable Business Council. And I'm happy to serve on their board. Business leaders today are more engaged than ever in finding solutions to create a vibrant, just, and sustainable economy. Like me, and has been referred to, many hardworking Americans hold a vision of a retirement based in financial security. I imagined a comfortable seat in a comfortable home on that sturdy three-legged financial stool that's been referred to. For most Americans today, however, that sturdy three-legged stool is what has been made up of Social Security, employer pensions, and private savings is broken, wobbly, and missing a leg or two. I believe that Senator Harkin's USA Retirement Fund Act is a straightforward, simple solution to tackling one of the most real threats to our overall economy, the lack of retirement security. It strengthens the wobbly leg of employer participation, which is critical, and builds the leg of personal savings, all leading towards, financial security and a retirement that works for everyone. Thousands of other business leaders feel as I do. In a recent survey by the American Sustainable Business Council, over 70% of bipartisan small business owners identified this threat, a lack of retirement security, as a critical issue in the economy and to their own individual business interest. The issue affects business in two ways, and that's what I'd like to talk about. First, in the American Sustainable Business Council survey, business owners cited cost as the largest factor in providing a retirement plan for their workforce. Cost and not values was the determining factor for employers who want to and are willing to offer a retirement plan to their own workforce. This bill fills in many of those blanks now left by the IRA and company-sponsored retirement options with an approach that is easy and low cost for employers who feel that the existing ways of doing business are just too costly. Second, the bill addresses a critical problem facing business leaders today, the prospect of an aging customer base with limited means. And Mary Kay, you so eloquently laid out what that employee looks like, what that customer will look like, what they look like now and in the future. In our domestic economy, business thrives when customers can afford our goods and services. Spending is and will continue to be disrupted when a customer has inadequate retirement income. An aging customer base with limited means is bad for business. It's in today's reality, it's easy to understand that the lack of confidence many business leaders face is based on the fact that 45% of our current customer base has no retirement plan or savings. This plan should give business leaders more confidence in the future strength of our economy. The USA Retirement Funds Act provides solutions to both of these business concerns. First, there is little cost to an employer to facilitate this plan. Eliminating the cost factor allows all employers to participate, strengthening the wobbly leg of a waning defined pension system. Employers are very clear of the value of an employee retirement savings, not only for their own workforce, but the implications in the broader community. Employers who want to contribute to the workers' retirement now have the method as well as the option to contribute directly to their own workers' plans. With this bill, employers have a clear path to offering a low-cost benefit which uses current payroll processes. There is no employer fiduciary responsibility on the oversight of the funds. With simplified choices vetted by an experienced board, the new plan can be simple and easy to put in place. Eliminating risk and providing the optional contributions go a long way in getting employer support for this bill. Auto-enrollment with the opt-out option puts the control of the savings directly in the employee's hands, defining the role of the employer as facilitator. On the second issue, facilitation of payroll deduction by employers offers the single best opportunity to drastically increase retirement savings and retirement plans and pensions. Auto-enrollment coupled with payroll deduction is a smart move. Employees will be empowered to build the third leg of the retirement stool through this personal savings way to do savings in the retirement funds account. Employees with current payroll deductions options now hold an average of $80,000 in their 401k. And I will refer to something that you said, Senator. It's really when you take the top 20% of wage earners out of that, that number plummets. So that number is still far short of what's needed in retirement, even for people at a higher level. Unfortunately, the majority of workers have never had the option to participate in any plan whatsoever. This bill addresses the need for access and ease of savings. It does not supplant any retirement plan in place. It strictly offers another tool. With continued education on the need for financial security, these accounts will allow more people financial security. As a business, imagine an economy of the future where a retiree sits on a solid three-legged financial stool. That's good for business. In closing, this bill bridges both the values and pragmatism of small business owners, regardless of political party. This bill is the opening conversation of how business leaders, workers, and bipartisan leaders can work together to find a solution to a very real economic threat to both our business and all of our aging America. Thank you.
Can I get a copy of that?
Sure.
Very good. That was very, very good. Well, thank you very much, Denise. And Herb, open it for questions, Herb?
Yes, we're gonna open for questions now. We have about 20 minutes. So who'd like to go first? And Joe, you can, you have to tell us your name and affiliation, however.
I'm Joe Sparks. I'm a club member and a freelance journalist. One of the questions I have, I've often heard about a company who will having problems and they'll raise the pensions of their employees, and then they seem to use that for profits and give themselves bonuses. Do you have anything in this that will prevent companies from raiding the pension plans of employees?
Well, yes, because the company does not have the pension plan. All they're doing is they're taking this payroll deduction and they're sending it off to one of these retirement funds, the USA Retirement Funds, managed by a board of trustees that have a fiduciary responsibility. Once that happens, there's nothing that the company can do to rate it.
I was talking about, though, for companies that do control their pension plan.
Oh, have I addressed that?
Yeah, in,
Well, no, I
in
haven't.
this bill, or is there plans to address that at some point?
Well, that's perhaps another issue that I haven't gotten into right now. No, I haven't.
Yes.
Sean Carr, club member, SNL Financial. Could you speak to the business opportunities that this bill would open up for life insurers or others to be creating these plans?
That's Denise's.
Sure, I mean, the bottom line for many companies is this is going to be a privately run in terms of managed fund. And so any money management company, any investment company who this is their specialty, it's not ours. And so I can't speak to it directly because American Income Life it's not what we do. But the opportunity is for any company who is going to run a fund to bid for that and to go through the process through the board of trustees. And the transparency element that I looked at in the bill is phenomenal because it lays it out very clearly in terms of the expectations that a fund manager has to meet, and that has to be very transparent in terms of the cost, the investments, any compensation that's in it, and stakeholders have an up or down vote in terms of not only what those compensations are and how those funds are run, but they can also move from one fund to another every year. And I don't know if that answers the question.
Yes.
Hi, this is Stark with Al Jazeera America. Senator, two questions. Is this something where businesses also opt in? They don't have to offer this plan to their employees, is that correct?
Well, the way we've set it up is that if a company, an employer, does not offer either a defined benefit, a pension plan, or a good 401k, which is a 401k that rolls over into a pension plan, then that employer then would have to offer this to their employees.
And would there be is it employers over a certain number of employees, or where's the cutoff there?
We cut it off at 10.
At 10, so employers who have 10 or more employees would
Yes,
have to offer this.
exactly.
And secondly, can you just tell me what you think the political milieu is for this, especially now that the president has sort of put out his own plan? What is the likelihood of something like this getting through to Congress?
Well, look, I know these things take a bit of time, but at least I think the debate is joined. That's why I'm glad the president raised it in his State of the Union message. I think now more and more, just in the year and a half I've been working on this, putting this bill together, more and more businesses are, as Denise said, they're now seeing we've got to have some other pathway here to a retirement program, coupled with the fact that we also know that we need some long-term patient capital in this country for long-term investments. So if you have a retirement fund like this, you don't have to have a return next week or next month or next quarter or next year. You can look at the long term. That's beneficial for pension funds to invest in startup companies, maybe research and development that takes a longer period of time to come to the forefront. And also keep in mind the infrastructure of this country. I mean, how long have we been talking now about the need to upgrade our infrastructure, our physical infrastructure in this country? We know, for example, that very soon we're going to have to upgrade our electrical grid in this country. We have to. That's a long period, and that's a lot of money. High-speed rail, renewable energy systems that will be coming up in this. That's going to require investment. That's where this money can go, and that provides a lot of job opportunities and builds up that infrastructure in our country. So I'm hearing more and more about this. So I you know, as I said, you know, the decline of DB plans over the last 30 years. Then we had 401ks. But now it just seems people now, and employers and other groups are saying something has to be done. So I think we may be at that moment of time where forces coalesce, and we can actually get something like this through Congress. I hope I can get some people on the other side of the aisle. It's a privately run plan. This is not a government program. Investment companies, I think, will like this. I think anything from your big funds like Fidelity and others can see this as another way of providing pension fund investments in the economy. So I don't know. Hope springs eternal.
And you, sir?
Rob Garber with the Fiscal Times. Following on what you just said, have you had any conversations with Republicans? Are there any who have expressed support for this in either the House or the Senate?
Yes, but I don't want to jeopardize their reelection efforts right now. Well, no, it's being on a bill with a Democrat, I guess. But no, I have, and there are a number of Republicans who have been looking at this and other aspects of things. So, yeah, and now that we have the bill developed and in, that I think this will generate some more conversations. I intend to use my committee to continue to have hearings on this. So I'm not. Obviously, I'd love to see something like this passed before I retire. But we'll do what we can this year, and at least I think hopefully even if we can't get it passed this year, at least it'll be part of the debate, the public discourse on what should Congress be doing in terms of retirement security. So it could be a whole part of the whole political debate this year.
Yes, sir.
John Eichel, NAPANET. Regarding the Board of Trustees that would manage the funds, who would appoint them and where would they come from?
Well, they would obviously come from the private sector, and they would be approved by the Department of Labor. Would approve the Board of Trustees. Michael, am I right on that? Yes. I have to check with Michael on this stuff. So they would come from, and they would have to, again, they would have the fiduciary responsibility. So it'd have to be an independent board. It would be initially set up from the investment firms, approved by the Department of Labor. The way we structured the bill is that as those boards are replaced, then it's the board itself that replaces, you see what I'm saying? When set the initial board, approved by the Department of Labor. They have to have fiduciary responsibility. They have to have an arm's length separation from the investment company. Then when those terms are up as they revolve, then the board itself picks the members. I don't know. Herb. Yes, yeah.
Patty Gillio, I'm a member of the Press Club. Americans increasingly see working longer as a important component to their financial security later in life. Is it time to start thinking about a four-legged stool?
What's the fourth one?
Working longer?
Oh, working longer. Well, that depends on who you are and what kind of job you got. I mean, I'm always kind of shake my head when I read about people who have nice jobs, not too much heavy lifting, and you're not outdoor in the cold weather, talk about working longer. But there are a lot of people who have tough jobs in our society. It's not just people working outdoors. I think of a woman who starts as a retail clerk in a store and is there standing on her feet for 40 years, every day. That's tough. So, yeah, maybe some people can work longer. I don't mind. If people want to work longer, that's fine. But there ought to be, at some point, and look, Social Security's gone to 67 now. I would be opposed to going any higher than that. And if people want to retire earlier, under this system, they could take their annuity. They would get less of an annuity, obviously. So the longer you work, the more the annuity you're going to get on this. So I don't mind people working longer if that's what they want to do. I just don't want to force someone to work longer in jobs in which they've been physically, it's been a tough physical job or even a mental job for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was curious, how would federal contractors be affected by this, and small federal contractors, will they have to take on the plan?
Sure. They're private. They're not government. They're private. If they don't offer the DB plan or a good 401k, they'd have to automatically sign up their people. Sure. Mm-hmm. Yes.
How does this differ from the legislation you introduced 2 years ago? What is the focus, the first legislation did then?
Not the same, isn't it, Michael? What are you talking about 2 years ago?
Well, the legislation I'm not sure if you actually introduced, but you proposed
Oh.
in light of the report that your committee came up with 2 years ago.
Have there been some modifications? Yeah, a few, because we've talked with investment firms, we've had hearings, talked to the business sector, and so yeah, we've made a few modifications in it, but nothing earth-shaking that I can think of. Michael, no. By the way, I'll introduce two people that are my brains. Okay, behind this, you all know we're not the brains behind this. Michael Krebs back here, who's worked with me and has really worked hard to develop this. Everyone in this whole retirement community knows Michael. And Zachary Schechter Steinberg. Where's Zachary? Back here. He's back there too. The two of them have worked it out. Michael's been my lead on this. Yes.
Hi, I'm Kim Langford with Kiplinger's Personal Finance Magazine. I'm just wondering when people would start to receive the money, and could they delay a little longer and get higher lifetime income?
Sure, of course.
Do they have a large range? Does it go up to like 70, or can they delay? What's the earliest they can get?
Well, I think we started it at 60, right? 60, and how much later? 72. Thank you, Michael. 60 to 72. Okay, got it. Anything else? Yes.
You mentioned talking to the business sector and particularly small businesses.
Yes.
From your discussions, do you think that business and small business will really push for this bill?
I do. Again, once they understand it, what's involved in it, I think that most small businesses are just concerned, oh my God, I got more paperwork to do and I got more regulations and exposing myself to lawsuits and all that panoply of concerns, which a lot of them are legitimate. I mean, once they find out just how easy this is, it's no, every small business has to fill out their FICA. They have to send it in every month. It's a very easy thing to do. That's all they'd have to add on to this. Very simple. And once they understand that and they don't have a fiduciary responsibility on this, why wouldn't they? And I would think that a lot of businesses, small, medium businesses, again, would see something like this as a recruitment tool, a retention tool. We'll sign you up, and guess what? We're going to kick in a % or two. We'll kick in some money, and maybe after a few years, we'll kick in more. So we've left it for the employers to use this as a management tool. Yes, way back there.
Senator, is there an early withdrawal exception for a person who's disabled from work earlier than age 60?
No. That's what DI is for, Social Security DI. But no, again, be very frank, we've shaped the bill so that this is a lifetime stream of income. No lump sums, no borrowing. It's an annuitization when you retire. Way back here, and then I come up here. Yes, yes.
Senator Hatch, Lisa Menzel with the Aspen Institute. You seem to have been very careful about not trying to end the 401k system.
Yeah, right.
And distinguishing this
Right.
bill.
Right.
And we had a meeting recently with Senator Hatch, who talked about a starter 401k, a bill that he introduced. Do you think that there's room for both starter 401ks and your bill?
Sure. Again, keep in mind, whenever people start talking about a new type of 401k, and this type of IRA and that's not a pension. It's a savings program. I don't have any problem with anybody who's got some ideas on how to save money, fine. At least the president's program is one that allows really low-income people to save some money in small amounts, and that's good. And it's backed by the full faith and credit of the federal government. So it's a bond. But no, I know, Warren. I see what they're trying to do. That's fine. But we got to understand. Don't confuse that with a retirement plan. It's not. It's a savings plan. Fine. But we need that other leg of the stool, retirement. Yes.
Senator, Don First from the American Academy of Actuaries.
Uh-huh.
These plans would have to be sponsored by private financial institutions, and obviously they'd take some investment to set those up.
Sure.
What kind of reaction have you had from private financial institutions? Have they expressed a
Sure.
desire to set these up?
Oh,
and
yeah.
willing to make that investment?
Yes, they have. We've met with a lot of them. There's a great deal of interest in it. Again, it provides them for, again, pooled amounts of money, big pools. They have experience and expertise in doing this. And so, anything I think that would increase their activity in this field, they would like. I think, look, I'll be honest with you, I think there may be some concern in terms of the 401ks. Will this take away from 401ks or not? There's some concern on that. I don't think so. I think this will be an adjunct to that. As I said, there are just, as I said, 75 million Americans out there don't do 401ks. They don't have that kind of stuff. So this is a whole new pool of money, pooled money, for these large investment firms. I mentioned Fidelity. There's a lot of them like that. But yes, they've expressed a great deal of interest in this. Yes.
With the bill, talking about controlling costs, would the bill cap management fees, or would things like that be handled by auction?
No, that's why you got the trustees and the boards. No, we did not. Michael, right? We didn't put a cap on that. No, we didn't do it. But again, we know that the costs. That's why we said the benefits cost of this could be 50% cheaper, because we know it's cheaper when you do big pooled accounts like that, rather than everyone having their separate IRAs and that type of thing. So it's just a lot cheaper. I think, I forget the figure on DB plans. It's really cheap.
The management fee?
Oh, it's a 1%. That's right. DB plans are 1% less costly than 401ks and IRAs. Now you might say, well, 1%, that's not a big deal. Over about 30 or 40 years, it is a big deal. So we would expect that this would be in that realm somewhere, like a big DB plan.
I think we have time for one more question.
Anything else? Well, listen, I invite you, if you have other follow-ups and stuff, contact me. Michael Krebs on my staff will be available to get into the weeds on this with you, on some of the finer points and everything. But I look forward to working on this and moving it. And I thank Mary Kay Henry and SEIU for their great support, and thank Mary Kay just for her wonderful leadership for our low-income workers in America. And I can go on and on about that too, but thank you very much, Mary Kay. Thank you. And Denise, thank you very much, and for being here and for enlightening us. I do want a copy of that. Okay, that was very good. And again, thank you very, very much, Herb, for having us here. Thank you all, and let's get this moving. No, good timing.
We'll get you back on time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Appreciate it. Well, Herb, that's interesting. You told me that story.
another session, but you had a union.
When I worked at ABC, I worked there for 14 years, and the union pension pays you 24%. And I had to live, I mean, I lost my job and I did a shift. And I was 60 when I lost my job.
We're switching back to this side.
That's why I say, you gotta have both. You gotta have a good savings like 401k, answer problems right now.
Okay. Great. And I'll let Mary read. Spell it because she's a good traffic. Great. But is he like in your office? He's in his office. Okay. Mhm. That's good. Yeah, we enjoy what you do. Well, where are you? All of a sudden, there's all this stuff.
Yeah, I should have it now. Or I got it.
Where do you want me to go? Any place that works for you is fine.
Okay, all right. Okay, Denise, okay, fine.
And, yeah, ladies, if you want to sit down. Well, good morning, everybody. Let me welcome you to the National Press Club, the world's leading organization for journalists. My name is Herb Perone, and I'm chair of the club's Newsmakers Committee. This morning, we've invited Senator Tom Harkin, who is chairman of the Senate's Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, to discuss his bold new legislation to tackle America's growing retirement crisis and to rebuild the private pension system. He'll be introducing that legislation later today. There's no question that the nation is facing a retirement savings crisis of unprecedented proportions. Among
Thank you, Rob. How are you? Okay, how are you?
The stuff that was not in there, things that he didn't say and the stuff that are not in there.
Okay. Okay. I can reach David. I'm gonna grab my stuff. talked to these